First contact. The Vexari exploration vessel Infinite Query dropped out of hyperspace with barely a ripple in the fabric of reality. Their cloaking technology, perfected over thousands of years, rendered them invisible to Earth's primitive detection systems. Commander Zelvex stood at the command center, his four eyes blinking in sequence as he reviewed the mission parameters. "Status report," he demanded, his translator converting the complex harmonics of his native tongue into something his mixed-species crew could understand. "All systems nominal, Commander," replied Science Officer Miritan. Her scaled hands danced across the control panel. "We've established orbit around the fourth planet of this system. The human colony is directly below us." Commander Zelvex nodded, his crest of sensory tendrils rippling with approval. The Vexari Dominion had spent decades studying humanity from afar. Humans were a curious species, technologically primitive by galactic standards, yet they'd managed to spread beyond their home planet. Most intriguing to the Vexari was humanity's rapid adaptability and unpredictable nature, qualities that made them both fascinating research subjects and potential threats. "Begin the specimen collection," Zelvex ordered. "Focus on the immature humans. Their neural pathways are still developing, making them ideal for our studies." Miritan hesitated, her lower eyes darting nervously. "Commander, the Council's directives specifically prohibit." "The Council is not here, Science Officer," Zelvex interrupted. "They want results without understanding what's required to obtain them. Immature humans possess cognitive plasticity that adults lack. They are essential to our research." Miritan nodded reluctantly and transmitted the commands to the collection teams. On the Martian colony of New Olympus, Captain Maya Chen frowned at the display screen in front of her. Another disappearance had been reported, the fifth child in 2 weeks. As head of colony security, she was responsible for the safety of all 12,000 colonists, but these vanishings defied explanation. "Run the footage again," she instructed her AI assistant. The holographic display replayed the security feed from the previous night. 10-year-old Marcus Patel had been sleeping in his family's habitat module. At 2:17, a brief power fluctuation caused the cameras to glitch. When the feed resumed 3 seconds later, the boy was gone. Bed empty, no signs of forced entry, environmental seals intact. "It's impossible," muttered Lieutenant Kaido Rodriguez, Maya's second-in-command. "Nobody can enter a sealed habitat without triggering alarms, let alone take a child without waking the parents in the next room." Maya rubbed her temples. "Something's missing." "What about atmospheric anomalies?" "Nothing significant," Kaido replied. "Just a slight spike in electromagnetic radiation immediately before the power fluctuation. But that's..." He stopped abruptly. "Wait, that pattern matches the previous incidents." Maya leaned forward. "Overlay all 5 events." The display shifted, showing 5 nearly identical electromagnetic signatures preceding each disappearance. "That's not a coincidence," Maya said, her voice hardening. "Run a colony-wide scan for similar radiation patterns." 12 minutes later, they had their answer. The pattern was detected at the edge of the colony's agricultural dome, faint but unmistakable. "Prep a team," Maya ordered, checking her sidearm. "Full tactical gear, non-lethal options only. Whatever's taking our children, I want answers, not bodies." The Vexari collection team hadn't expected resistance. The humans' Mars colony was supposed to be a soft target, isolated, vulnerable, and with minimal military presence. What they found instead was a prepared defense force waiting at their collection point. "Unidentified entities," Maya's voice boomed through an amplified speaker. "You are surrounded. Deactivate your cloaking technology and identify yourselves." Inside their camouflaged shuttle, collection leader Thrix was frantically communicating with the mothership. "Extraction team compromised. Humans have detected our presence." "Impossible," came Zelvex's reply. "Their technology is insufficient. Nevertheless, they've established a perimeter around our position. Orders." After a moment of silence, Zelvex responded, capture one of their security personnel. We need to understand how they detected us. Fricks acknowledged and prepared his team. The shuttle's doors slid open, revealing nothing to human eyes but a slight shimmer in the air. Maya's scanner picked up the movement immediately. Energy spike. 9 o'clock. Before her team could react, a dart struck Private Jenkins in the neck. He collapsed instantly. 2 more security officers fell before they could identify their attackers. Maya fired her pulse rifle at the source of the darts and was rewarded with a flash of electrical discharge as her shot connected with something invisible. A portion of the air seemed to glitch, revealing a glimpse of a tall, insectoid figure before the cloaking technology compensated. "They're vulnerable to electrical discharge," she shouted. "Switch to EMP grenades." Lieutenant Rodriguez lobbed a grenade toward the distorted area. It detonated with a dull thump, releasing an electromagnetic pulse that disrupted the Vexeri cloaking fields. Suddenly, 3 alien figures became visible, tall, with 4 arms and insectoid features, wearing sleek environmental suits. The security team opened fire, and one of the aliens fell. The other 2 retreated rapidly toward their now visible shuttle. "Don't let them escape," Maya ordered, pursuing them. She needed answers about the missing children. The Vexeri shuttle's engines flared as it prepared for liftoff. Maya fired repeatedly at its propulsion systems, damaging one thruster. The craft lurched sideways, crashing into the dome's support structure. Emergency containment fields activated immediately, preventing atmospheric breach. Maya approached the downed shuttle cautiously, her team flanking her. The craft's hull had cracked open, revealing sophisticated technology unlike anything humans had developed. Inside, one injured Vexeri lay trapped under collapsed equipment. Maya entered the shuttle, her weapon trained on the alien. "Where are the children?" she demanded. The Vexeri's translator flickered to life. "Human aggression. Unexpected. Specimens. Valuable research." "They're not specimens," Maya growled. "They're children. Return them immediately." The alien's multifaceted eyes blinked rapidly. "Impossible. Already transferred to research vessel. Integration begun." Maya felt cold dread settling in her stomach. Integration. What does that mean? What are you doing to them? Understanding. Human cognitive development. Neural mapping. Physical adaptation testing. The immature ones, most resilient. Maya's finger tightened on her trigger. "You're experimenting on our children. Science requires sacrifice," the Vexeri replied. "The Dominion must understand human potential." Threat assessment. A communication device on the alien's wrist activated, projecting a holographic image of Commander Zelvex. The commander assessed the situation quickly. "Human security forces," Zelvex addressed Maya directly. "Your interference is futile. The specimens we've collected are contributing to important research. Their sacrifice will benefit the greater galactic community." "Those specimens are children," Maya replied, her voice deadly calm. "Return them unharmed, or what happens next will redefine your understanding of human capabilities." Zelvex's sensory tendrils rippled with what might have been amusement. "Your threats are meaningless. Your planetary defenses cannot detect our vessels. Your weapons cannot reach us in orbit. The collection will continue." The hologram flickered off. Maya turned to her team. "Get this alien to medical containment. I want everything it knows." She activated her comm link to Colony Command. "This is Captain Chen. We have confirmation of extraterrestrial hostiles abducting our children. Initiate Emergency Protocol Theta, and get me a direct line to Earth Command." In the sterile laboratory aboard the Infinite Query, Science Officer Mira Tan observed the human children floating in suspension chambers. Their vital signs were stable, their brainwaves active despite their unconscious state. The neural interfaces connected to their temples collected vast amounts of data. Marcus Patel, the most recent acquisition, showed unusual brain activity. His neural patterns didn't match the established baselines from previous human studies. Mira Tan adjusted the scanning parameters, her scientific curiosity overriding her earlier ethical concerns. The boy's eyelids suddenly fluttered. That shouldn't be possible. The stasis field should have kept him fully unconscious, yet his brain activity was spiking dramatically. Subject 37 is demonstrating anomalous resistance to sedation protocols, she noted in her research log, increasing suppression field by 20%. The adjustment had no effect. If anything, Marcus's brain activity increased. Then, impossibly, his eyes opened fully. He stared directly at Mira Tan, his expression not one of fear, but of defiance. In the adjacent chambers, the other children began showing similar signs of consciousness. Alarm signals flashed across Mira Tan's console. "Commander," she called urgently, "we have a situation." Before Zelvex could respond, the ship's proximity alarms blared. On the main view screen, dozens of small craft were approaching from the Martian surface, primitive by Vexari standards, but armed and on an intercept course. Humanity had discovered the Vexari presence, and their response was swift and unified. The first contact had become a confrontation, and the Vexari were about to learn a fundamental truth about humans. Nothing provokes their wrath more surely than a threat to their children. The response. Sarah Williams hadn't slept in 3 days, not since her daughter Emma had vanished from their home in the New Olympus colony. The colony administrators had initially suggested that Emma might have wandered into a restricted area, but Sarah knew better. Emma was responsible beyond her 8 years, a necessity for children growing up in the harsh environment of Mars. When Captain Chen's team discovered the alien presence, Sarah felt a strange mixture of horror and validation. Her child hadn't run away or been lost in an accident. She'd been taken. Now, Sarah found herself in a crowded briefing room at the colony's military headquarters, alongside other parents of missing children. Captain Chen stood at the front, her face grim as she explained what they knew about the aliens, the Vexari, and their specimen collection. "We've established communication with Earth Command," Maya explained. "The Uian Zeus is en route with a full battle group. ETA 48 hours. 48 hours. Sarah interrupted, rising from her seat. "That's too long. What are these creatures doing to our children right now?" Maya met Sarah's gaze steadily. "Dr. Williams, I understand your concern. We're doing everything possible with the resources we have." Sarah wasn't just a mother. She was the colony's leading xenobiologist. If anyone should be examining these aliens and their technology, it was her. "You captured one of them. I want to see it." Captain Chen hesitated, then nodded. "Follow me." The captured Vexari was secured in a medical isolation chamber. Multiple restraints held its 4 arms immobile, while monitoring equipment tracked its alien physiology. Sarah approached the transparent barrier, studying the creature with professional detachment that belied her inner turmoil. "Can it understand us?" she asked. "Their translation technology is sophisticated," Maya replied. "It understands everything we say." Sarah addressed the alien directly. "I'm Dr. Sarah Williams. You took my daughter. I want to know why." The Vexari's multifaceted eyes shifted toward her. "Your offspring represents valuable research potential. Human neural adaptability exceeds all projections, particularly in immature specimens." "They're children, not specimens," Sarah corrected, her voice tight. "What specifically are you studying?" "Human cognitive resilience. Your species' brains form unconventional neural pathways when subjected to stress stimuli. The immature ones demonstrate even greater neuroplasticity." Sarah's professional facade cracked. "You're deliberately causing them pain to see how they adapt." "Pain is merely one variable," the Vexari replied impassively. "We also test adaptation to environmental extremes, sensory deprivation, and cognitive challenges." Sarah pressed her palm against the barrier, leaning closer. "Listen carefully. Human children are not laboratory subjects. They are precious to us beyond your comprehension. Every parent on this colony, on Earth, would gladly die to protect their child, and they would kill without hesitation to save them. The alien's sensory tendrils twitched. Illogical. Individual survival should take precedence. That's where you fundamentally misunderstand us, Sarah said, and it will be your downfall. Aboard the UN Zeus, General Alexander Volkov reviewed the tactical display with growing concern. His battle group, 3 heavy cruisers and their support vessels, represented Earth's most advanced military technology. But the alien ship they were approaching outmassed them significantly. Analysis confirms it's a single vessel, reported his tactical officer, approximately 3 kilometers in length. Energy signatures suggest advanced propulsion and weapon systems. Life signs? Volkov asked. Uncertain, sir. Their shielding blocks detailed scans, but we're detecting multiple human biosignatures aboard, small patterns consistent with children. Volkov nodded grimly. Time to intercept. 6 hours at current velocity, sir. Too long. Every minute those children remained captives was unacceptable. Deploy advanced scout vessels. I want eyes on that ship immediately. As the scouts launched, Volkov activated a secure channel to Mars Colony. Captain Chen's face appeared on the display. General Volkov, she acknowledged. Your arrival is ahead of schedule. We pushed the engines beyond safety parameters, he replied. What's your status? We've learned more about the Vexari from our captive. They're scientific researchers, primarily, but with significant military capabilities. They're specifically interested in how human children's brains respond to various stimuli. Volkov's expression darkened. Torture, in other words. They don't view it that way, but essentially yes. Dr. Williams, one of the parents, has been interrogating the alien. She believes their ship contains dozens of children, not just from Mars, but possibly from Earth as well. We'll recover them, Volkov promised. My scout ships will reach the alien vessel in approximately 30 minutes. Once we have visual confirmation, we'll... An alarm sounded, interrupting him. His tactical officer looked up in surprise. Sir, the scouts report the alien vessel is moving. It's changing orbit, accelerating toward deep space. They're running, Volkov realized. They know we're coming. He turned back to the display. Captain, we need to slow them down. Any suggestions? Maya glanced off-screen, apparently consulting someone. Dr. Williams has a theory. The Vexari ship maintains a quantum communication link with their landing craft. If we can use that link to transmit a virus into their systems. Can you do it? Maya nodded. Our tech team is working on it now. We need maybe 20 minutes. Make it 10, Volkov ordered. After that, they'll be beyond our engagement range. On the Mars colony, Sarah Williams worked frantically alongside the military cyber warfare specialists. The captured Vexari shuttle contained a communications array unlike anything humans had developed. Instantaneous quantum entanglement that defied the limitations of light speed. The principle is sound, Sarah explained as she examined the alien technology. If we can access their network through this terminal, we could potentially disrupt their navigation systems. Lieutenant Kaido Rodriguez, who had a background in software engineering before joining Colonial Security, nodded in agreement. The challenge is understanding their coding language. It's not binary or even quantum-based as we understand it. Sarah stared at the alien symbols scrolling across their interface. As a xenobiologist, she recognized patterns that others might miss. It's not just code, she realized. It's biochemical. The system is partially organic. It mimics their neural patterns. She turned to the captured Vexari, who watched impassively from its containment field. Your ship's systems are biologically integrated, aren't they? They respond to your thought patterns. The alien's sensory tendrils flattened against its head. Crude understanding, but essentially correct. Sarah smiled for the first time in days. Then we don't need to understand your code. We just need to simulate distress signals from your own kind. She turned to Rodriguez. Can you isolate the neural patterns from our prisoner and amplify them? The lieutenant nodded slowly. A distress signal, mimicking their own people. That could work. They extracted the neural patterns from the captive alien's brain activity, focusing on regions associated with danger and alarm responses. Within minutes, they had compiled a simulated Vexeri distress signal that would transmit through the quantum communication link. "Ready?" Sarah asked, her finger hovering over the activation control. Rodriguez nodded. "Transmitting now." Aboard the Infinite Query, alarms blared as emergency signals flooded through the communication systems. Commander Zelvex's sensory tendrils flared in distress. Multiple catastrophic failures reported in the collection shuttle, reported his communications officer. Containment breaches, life support failure. The team is in critical danger. "Impossible," Zelvex snapped. "The humans don't have technology capable of." "The signals are coming through our quantum link," the officer interrupted. "They're authenticated with our security protocols." Zelvex hesitated. Protocol demanded they render assistance to their stranded team. But instinct told him something was wrong. "Reduce speed," he ordered finally. "Establish orbit at maximum safe distance from the human vessels. Deploy defensive screens and prepare for potential engagement." As the massive ship slowed its departure, Science Officer Miratan approached urgently. "Commander, we have another problem. The human children. They're all showing signs of increased neural activity. It's as if they're communicating with each other somehow." "Impossible," Zelvex dismissed. "They're in separate containment fields with neural suppressors active." Nevertheless, their brainwave patterns are synchronizing. "And look at this." She displayed a holographic representation of the children's collective brain activity. The pattern was distinctly familiar. Zelvex's four eyes widened. "That's a Vexeri distress pattern. How could they possibly?" Before he could complete his thought, the ship's lights flickered. Primary systems throughout the vessel began reporting anomalies. "The human children," Miratan whispered. "Somehow they're affecting our bioneural systems." In the research lab, the stasis chambers continued to hum with power, but inside them, the children were no longer passive subjects. Marcus Patel, the boy who had first opened his eyes against all probability, had somehow established a psychic link with the other abducted children. Their collective consciousness was now interfacing directly with the Vexeri ship's partially organic systems. And they were angry. General Volkov watched the tactical display with satisfaction as the alien vessel slowed to a near stop. Status of the target. "They've established orbit at approximately 20,000 kilometers, his tactical officer reported. "Their defensive systems appear active, but they've ceased acceleration." "Sir," the communications officer called, "we're receiving a transmission from Mars Colony." "It's Dr. Williams." Sarah's face appeared on the display. "General, the disruption worked, but it's temporary. They'll realize it was a deception soon. You need to act quickly." "Understood. What can you tell me about their defenses?" "Based on what we've learned from the captured technology, their shields operate on a rotating frequency to deflect energy weapons. However, physical projectiles might penetrate if timed correctly." Volkov nodded. "Kinetic strikes it is. Prepare missile batteries, maximum yield." As the battle group closed distance with the alien vessel, another officer approached Volkov with a concerned expression. "Sir, we're detecting unusual energy fluctuations from the alien ship. Their power core appears unstable." "Their damage?" Volkov asked. "Unclear, sir, but the fluctuations correlate with surges in the human biosignatures we detected. It's almost as if..." Volkov raised an eyebrow. "As if what, Commander?" "As if the children are somehow affecting the ship's systems, sir." The tactical display suddenly showed new contacts emerging from the alien vessel, dozens of small craft launching from its hangars. "Are they deploying fighters?" Volkov demanded. "No, sir. They appear to be escape pods, and they're heading away from us, toward deep space." Understanding dawned on Volkov. "They're abandoning ship. Something's gone very wrong aboard that vessel." He turned to his communications officer. "Contact Mars Colony immediately. I need to speak with Dr. Williams." Humanity unleashed. Inside the Vexeri research lab, Marcus Patel floated in his stasis chamber, eyes open and alert despite the sedatives pumping through his system. Next to him, Emma Williams, Sarah's daughter, and 19 other children had similarly broken through their chemical restraints. Their minds, linked in ways the Vexeri had never anticipated, were reaching out through the ship's bioneural pathways. The aliens had made a critical error. In studying how human children's brains adapted to stress, they had inadvertently created the perfect conditions for those adaptations to manifest. The neural interfaces meant to record brain activity had become two-way conduits, allowing the children to access the ship's organic components. Science officer Mira Tan watched in disbelief as displays throughout the lab flickered between normal readouts and streams of human language: English, Mandarin, Hindi, languages the children knew. "We want to go home" flashed across every screen, followed by "WHERELLUR parents." "Impossible," Mira Tan whispered. She turned to her research assistant. "Increase neural suppressors to maximum." The assistant complied, but the children showed no response to the increased sedation. Instead, the ship's environmental systems began to malfunction. Temperature regulation failed, lighting systems flickered, and communication channels filled with static interspersed with children's voices. Commander Zelvex burst into the lab, his normally immaculate appearance disheveled. "What is happening?" he demanded. "The subjects," Mira Tan explained, struggling to maintain scientific detachment. "They've somehow formed a collective consciousness and infiltrated our bioneural systems. Terminate them," Zelvex ordered. Mira Tan's secondary eyes widened in shock. "Commander, that violates our most basic research protocols. These are sentient beings. They are threatening this vessel and our mission," Zelvex countered. "Execute termination protocols immediately." Mira Tan moved toward the control panel, her four hands hovering over the commands that would flood the stasis chambers with lethal toxins. But before she could enter the sequence, the panel went dark. Throughout the lab, all systems shut down simultaneously. A child's voice, Marcus Patel's, emanated from the ship's communication system. "We won't let you hurt us anymore." Zelvex pulled his sidearm, aiming at the nearest stasis chamber. "If the systems won't obey, I'll handle this personally." Before he could fire, the artificial gravity in the lab failed. Zelvex and Mira Tan floated helplessly as equipment broke free from its moorings, creating a chaotic tangle of drifting objects. Through it all, the children remained secured in their chambers, watching with unnaturally calm expressions. "You don't understand what you've done," Emma Williams said, her voice somehow transmitting through the ship's speakers. "Our parents are coming for us, and they're very, very angry." Sarah Williams sat in the Mars Colony Command Center, staring at the communications display in disbelief. She just heard her daughter's voice, transmitted from the alien vessel. "Emma," she whispered, "can you hear me?" "Mom." The relief in Emma's voice was palpable. "We're okay. They can't hurt us anymore." Captain Maya Chen leaned forward. "Emma, this is Captain Chen. Are the other children with you?" "We're all here," Emma confirmed. "They wanted to study how our brains work under stress. But instead, we figured out how their ship works. It's partly alive. Mom, it responds to thoughts, and now it responds to ours." Sarah pressed her hand against the display, tears streaming down her face. "Hold on, sweetheart. Help is coming." "We know," Emma replied. "We can see the warships. But Mom, the aliens are trying to abandon ship. Some of them are different. They tried to help us, but their commander wanted to kill us when we fought back." General Volkov, still connected via video link, exchanged glances with Captain Chen. "Emma," he said gently, "this is General Volkov from Earth Command. Can you tell us more about the aliens who tried to help you?" "There's a female scientist," Emma explained. "She argued with the commander. She said they shouldn't hurt us, that it wasn't right. There are others like her." Volkov nodded thoughtfully. Emma, we're going to recover you and all the other children. But I need you to do something important. Can you identify which escape pods contain the aliens who tried to help you, and which contain the ones who wanted to harm you? I think so, Emma replied. The ship's systems can track them. Good. Mark the pods containing your allies. We'll recover them safely. The others. Volkov's expression hardened. They'll answer for what they've done. Aboard the Infinite Query, chaos reigned. The ship's automated systems had turned against the Vexari crew. Life support functioned only in sections containing human children, while corridors leading to escape pods became labyrinthine death traps. Commander Zelvex and his loyalists fought their way through, cutting access panels and bypassing the ship's brain to reach the evacuation area. Niratan and a group of scientists who had opposed the more extreme experiments had barricaded themselves in a secondary laboratory with several of the children. Unlike Zelvex, they had established communication with the collective consciousness controlling the ship. We never intended harm, Niratan explained to Marcus and Emma, who had become the leaders of the children's resistance. Our mission was to understand your species. By torturing us, Marcus replied flatly. Some methods were misguided, Niratan admitted, but many of us objected. The Vexari Dominion contains diverse perspectives, just as your human societies do. Not all of us approved of Commander Zelvex's approach. Emma studied the alien scientist thoughtfully. You're afraid of us now, aren't you? Not just us children, but all humans. Niratan's sensory tendrils flattened in the Vexari equivalent of a nod. Your adaptability exceeds anything we have encountered in 12,000 years of space exploration. We believed ourselves to be the pinnacle of cognitive evolution, but your children, without training or technology, have seized control of our most advanced vessel. We just wanted to go home, Emma said simply. A violent tremor shook the laboratory as something exploded elsewhere in the ship. The children's collective control was formidable but imperfect. Systems were failing catastrophically as the ship's organic components struggled against the unfamiliar patterns of human thought. The vessel is becoming unstable, Niratan warned. You must release control before the power core destabilizes. Marcus and Emma exchanged glances, communicating silently through their newly formed mental link. Then Marcus nodded. We'll help you evacuate, but only those who tried to help us. And Commander Zelvex? Niratan asked. Human justice will decide his fate, Emma replied with a gravity beyond her years. General Volkov watched as the alien vessel began breaking apart. Sections of its hull separated along predetermined fault lines, an emergency protocol designed to preserve portions of the ship even if others were compromised. Status of the evacuation pods, he demanded. 17 pods have launched, sir, his tactical officer reported. 12 are marked with the children's signal indicating friendly forces. 5 contain the commander and his loyalists. Intercept the commander's pod, Volkov ordered. Use EMP weapons to disable it without destroying it. Escort the friendly pods to safety. As his orders were carried out, a new communication arrived from the disintegrating alien ship. It was Marcus Patel, his young face appearing surprisingly calm despite the chaos around him. General, the boy said, we're preparing to evacuate with the friendly Vexari. But there's a problem. The ship's power core is destabilizing faster than expected. When it goes, the explosion will be significant. Volkov tensed. How significant? Enough to threaten Mars if debris enters the atmosphere, Marcus replied with unnerving precision. We're trying to direct the ship away from the planet, but the controls are becoming unresponsive as systems fail. Can you reach the escape pods? Yes, but we'll need help navigating. The ship keeps changing its internal configuration as its organic systems deteriorate. Volkov turned to his officers. Deploy our boarding teams immediately. Full rescue protocol. Within minutes, human special forces were boarding the disintegrating alien vessel, guided by the children's collective consciousness through the ship's changing passageways. The rescue teams found groups of children being led by friendly Vexari scientists toward evacuation points. Meanwhile, Sarah Williams had convinced Captain Chen to let her join a second rescue team launching from Mars Colony. Nothing would keep her from reaching her daughter personally. Commander Zelvex watched from his disabled escape pod as human military vessels surrounded him. His grand research mission had collapsed into humiliating defeat. Not only had the humans fought back effectively, but his own crew had turned against him. The humans had proven far more dangerous than any Vexari had anticipated, not because of their technology, which was primitive, or their physical capabilities, which were unremarkable. No, humanity's true power lay in their irrationality, their willingness to risk everything to protect their young, their ability to forge connections that transcended individual survival. As human soldiers boarded his pod and placed him in restraints, Zelvex realized that the Vexari understanding of the galaxy would need to be fundamentally reassessed. Any species that could turn a scientific research mission into a military catastrophe through sheer force of will was not to be underestimated. Sarah Williams pushed through the crowd of rescued children and military personnel aboard the UN Zeus. Somewhere in this chaos was Emma. She scanned the faces desperately until, there, her daughter stood next to Marcus Patel, both children talking intensely with a medical officer. "Emma," Sarah called. Emma turned, her eyes widening. "Mom." She broke away from the group and ran into her mother's arms. Sarah held her daughter tightly, tears flowing freely. "Are you okay? Did they hurt you?" "I'm okay," Emma assured her. "They tried to hurt us, but then something happened. We could feel each other's thoughts, all of us children together. And then we could feel the ship too." Sarah stroked her daughter's hair, marveling at the resilience of this small person she had created. "The doctors say you've developed some kind of psychic ability. They think the aliens inadvertently activated latent capabilities in the human brain." Emma nodded solemnly. "Marcus says we're still connected. Not as strongly as before, but we can still feel each other. It's like having 23 brothers and sisters in your head." "Is it scary?" Sarah asked gently. "No," Emma replied. "It's nice, actually, never being alone." Across the medical bay, General Volkov was debriefing Marcus Patel, whose unexpected leadership had been crucial to their escape. The ship's core detonated safely beyond Mars orbit. Volkov was saying, "No debris reached the colony. You did well, son." Marcus nodded, but his attention seemed divided. "General, there's something else you should know. The Vexari, they're part of something larger. A dominion with many species. What happened here? They'll report back." "Are you saying we should expect more visitors?" Volkov asked, frowning. "Eventually," Marcus confirmed. "But I don't think they'll try to take more children. They learn